Well, I'm out in the orchard for our last harvest of the season today. It's the last day of October. We've got frosts and freezes predicted in the forecast for this week as we move into November. So I'm looking to just get everything in, all these last storage apples that we've got. But I thought this would be a great time to go back through the season and then show you what we've harvested this year. Picking the last of our curl-free peach here. This is from Miller's Nursery. They've been doing pretty good. We've gotten several dozen already. But some of these are suffering from brown rot, so we're going to have to make sure we get all of the mummified looking peaches and take those off and take care of those so we don't get reinfected next year. But they've been doing really good. There we go. There's the rest of the peaches from that tree. And you can see that brown rot here on these and what that's doing to the peaches. So you can see kind of those spores on top that are going to spread. So any fruit that you have that ends up looking like this, make sure you get it removed from the tree because that will overwinter and pop back out next year. So I'm going to give you guys an update on the Finger Lakes Super Hardy. These are coming in. It's now mid-August and the tree has done quite well with holding the fruit up. Haven't had any branches break. This is the one I did prune earlier this spring and I put out a video on that. But these are closer to softball size, so that's been really exciting. We have noticed with a few of them that their pits are actually splitting. I've read that it can happen because of your fruit being overripe. And we've noticed that the curl-free did not have that issue. So I think going forward, that curl-free peach is going to be our favorite as far as maintenance level and how much we need to protect from bugs and that sort of thing. But definitely as far as size, these Finger Lakes have been the superior specimen. And on to our latest bearing peach variety. This is our Red Leaf Indian Peach. These did well this year as well. I didn't do very much protection to these, and yet we still got a good crop of these. And that really just shows how hardy they are to our area. I often like to pick these by just gently shaking the tree and seeing what falls and collecting those up. And these peaches are quite a bit smaller than your average peaches on other trees. They're only usually around 2 or 2.5 inches. And we enjoy eating these both fresh and dehydrated. Unfortunately, our nectarines did not fare very well. They all seem to have mummified like this because of the brown rot, so we're not really going to get any harvest from them this year. But now we know about that problem, we can hopefully work on preventing that next year, and the first step really for that will be removing these from the orchard and pruning these things down to get rid of any limbs that seem to be affected by that, and hopefully we'll have a cleaner orchard next year that we can get some nectarines out of. Moonglow pear seems to be doing good. Didn't have a lot of fruit on it this year, but what is here has grown to some pretty good size to it. So just checking those, see what's ready. When you pick pears, just lift them up, see if they snap off. 2 of them did so far. Asian pears are starting to come in as well. I'm not sure if these are Housewee or Shinshiki or Chijuro, but they're doing pretty well. In fact, this branch was so overloaded that I decided to go ahead and just put the ladder under it instead of actually thinning it like I should have, because not everything had a lot of fruit this year, but got a little greedy on this one. But they all seem to still be a pretty good size here. Usually they can't manage having as many, or you get smaller ones, but these all seem to be at least pretty decent on size. I actually prefer these to be very ripe. I don't like them until they've really hit that peak. But even though it's supposed to be a 3-on-1 Asian pear, it seems that there was some mix-up at some point, because one of the varieties is definitely not an Asian pear, but another European pear. So we've got these as well, and hopefully they'll be ready soon. Next up, we've got our Stark Honey Sweet pear. I really underestimated this pear in previous years, but I really noticed it this year when picked at just the right time. It had a really nice butterscotch flavor to it. So I'll definitely be keeping my eyes out for these in future years a bit more than I have before. Our Peggy Asian pears have really just started to get ready, and they are huge this year. Good softball sized pears. Not every single one of them is ready, but they're definitely very close if not ready. So within the next week or so. I think we'd already eaten 2 or 3 of these, but here's the rest of them we got off the tree. They were actually all ready today. Just one piece of fruit on this tree this year. This is either a Drippin' Honey or a Chijuro. This tree was actually a 2-on-1 Asian pear, and one of the varieties broke off last year. but the variety that survived seems to be doing pretty well. Our Bosc pears are the last ones to come in, and we got maybe a half a dozen this year. And moving on to apples, here we've got our Carolina Red June. This was the first time I've ever tasted Carolina Red June. Thought it was a decent apple, but looking forward to getting to try more specimens from it in future years. This is one we had just grafted this year. And up next we've got our Gravenstein. And I can't hardly stress enough the benefit of having a tree like this on the homestead. Being able to get fresh, ripe fruit from a tree across a 2-month span. It was the beginning of July up to the end of August. We were still pulling in fruit on this one. And that was just such a blessing. So if you don't have this variety or one like it, I definitely recommend this one. And then we've got our Jonifrey here. This is a bit of a fruit bush instead of a tree, but it's still putting out fruit. Hasn't shown any signs of dying back yet. Probably got a dozen apples off of this one this year. And here's a big apple for you. This is our King of Tompkins County. We didn't have a lot of them this year, but it doesn't take nearly as many of these as some of the other apples to really feel like you got a good portion. We only had a single Macintosh apple off of our tree this year. Even with all the freezes that we went through, there just weren't a lot of blooms, so I didn't expect a lot. But we did at least get the one, and I covered it up to make sure we'd be able to harvest it. Our largest harvest definitely came from our Liberty and our MacFree. The Liberty is a triploid. It's just a heavy producer. It can handle a very large crop, and it certainly did this year. It's one of my favorites for sure. It's always got a good, impressive flavor. And the MacFree also did really well this year. And the MacFree and the Liberty come in around the same time, so we were able to kind of combine those harvests for making some more applesauce, and we've definitely eaten plenty of them fresh. One of our MacFrees this year was even just huge. I'd never seen one this large. I was also really excited this year. Got to taste our first Ashmead's Kernel apple. This is a variety I grafted on to our Franken tree back in 2020. So this was the first time it bore any fruit for us. Absolutely delicious. Just had the one piece of fruit, but I can already tell I'm going to want to make a whole tree, if not multiple trees of this one. It's got a very rich, sweet tart flavor to it. And finally on to our storage apples. We only got 2 on our Yellow Newton Pippin, but we got several 5-gallon buckets full of our Gold Rush. The Gold Rush I've talked about before. They lasted for us up until February 1st before. I've got an additional kid since then, so we'll see if they make it that long. But at least as far as storage quality and how well they do with that, they're definitely up to the challenge. And that's a wrap for the 2021 fruit growing season. If you missed any of the videos I put out on the orchard and fruit growing this year, be sure and check out this playlist here. And don't forget to subscribe to stay tuned for new content as it comes out. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys like that. It's not even ripe yet. Thanks a lot.